My name is Walter Harris. If you told me 6 months ago that I'd be battling my own son-in-law for the roof over my head, I'd have laughed and offered you a glass of bourbon. But life has a way of blindsiding you, no matter how carefully you plan. Just 3 days after my daughter Emily's wedding, her new husband, Nathan, showed up at my house in Austin, Texas, wearing that salesman's grin he always had. Only this time, he brought a notary and a briefcase, and he was all business. "We just sold this house, Walter," he said, barely concealing his satisfaction. "It's time for you to move to a retirement community, somewhere easier, you know?" I looked at him, took in his expensive suit, and caught the hint of smugness in his voice. For a moment, I felt the blood rush to my ears. But I kept my cool, just like years ago on the oil rigs when a storm would hit, and all you could do was hold your ground. "That's quite a proposal," I said, glancing over at Emily. She was shifting awkwardly, her wedding ring sparkling in the morning light. My house was still full of wedding flowers and half-empty champagne bottles from the celebration. "Nathan, this is my home," I replied quietly. "I built it with my own hands after your wife was born. Every inch of it means something to me." Nathan leaned forward, not missing a beat. "Walter, you're alone in a 5-bedroom place. It doesn't make sense. We could start our family here. It's what's best for everyone." Emily's eyes pleaded with me not to make a scene, but I could see the confusion and guilt swirling inside her. I remembered when she was 5 and fell off her bike in this very driveway, how I'd carried her inside and patched up her knee. "Nathan," I said, voice steady as stone, "you and Emily are welcome to stay a few days until you find a place of your own. But this house isn't for sale." A flicker of frustration crossed his face, quickly replaced by that fake smile. "Of course, Walter. I understand. It's just, rents are sky high, and Emily's teaching salary doesn't go far. I thought we could work something out as a family." His words echoed in the kitchen, bouncing off memories of Sunday morning pancakes and late-night talks with my late wife, Margaret. Emily squeezed Nathan's hand, trying to smooth things over. "Dad, let's not argue. It's supposed to be a happy time." But all I could feel was the chill of betrayal. 2 days ago, I'd written a check for $18,000 so my daughter could have her dream wedding at the Blue Willow Grill. Now the man she married wanted my house on top of it. Nathan's charm faded, and something steely slid into his voice. "Maybe we can talk later, once everyone's calmer. It's a lot to process." I stood up, tossing 2 $20 bills on the table to cover lunch, my hands shaking, not with age, but with anger. "Take care of the check," I said quietly. "I need some air." Outside, the Texas spring wind cut through my shirt. I gripped the rail of the porch I'd painted every year since '98 and tried to steady my nerves. As I watched Nathan through the window, I realized this wasn't just a family disagreement. It was a battle for everything I'd built. That evening, as I sat in my worn leather chair, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and pulled out my old journal, Margaret's last gift to me. I wrote, April 2nd, 2024. Nathan Carter demanded house ownership during wedding celebration lunch. Emily torn. Must watch for further signs. I could hear laughter in the kitchen, but it sounded like strangers in my own home. My daughter's happiness had been my life's work, but tonight I knew it was time to protect it from those closest to me. The days after that lunch passed in a fog of unease. I moved through my own house like a guest, every familiar creak and shadow tinged with suspicion. Nathan kept up his friendly routine, making coffee, cracking jokes, helping Emily with dinner, but I could see the calculation behind his eyes. The man was hunting for an angle. On Thursday afternoon, I pulled into the driveway after a grocery run. My old friend and neighbor, Bill Watson, was tending his rose bushes across the street. He waved me over, his sunburned face unusually serious. Walter, can I talk to you for a minute? Bill wiped his hands on his jeans, glancing at my front door. Saw something odd yesterday. Your son-in-law brought a guy over here. Looked like some kind of real estate fella. Measuring tape, clipboard, walking all around the house, inside and out. The sack of groceries suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. How long were they here, Bill? Hour, maybe more. Nathan let him inside with his own key. They spent a lot of time in your office and the backyard. Didn't see Emily with them. My stomach tightened. I thanked Bill and hurried inside, ignoring the groceries. Nathan and Emily weren't home. I went straight to my office, searching for anything out of place. Sure enough, my desk drawer, the one where I kept important documents, wasn't fully closed. I sat down at my computer and opened the browser. My heart dropped as I scrolled through the recent history. Texas property transfer, power of attorney for elderly, Austin cash buyers, how to evict a homeowner. The pieces snapped together with a cruel logic. Nathan wasn't just plotting, he was moving fast. That night, at dinner, I watched Nathan closely as he poured wine for Emily and told some story about a real estate client in Dallas. His hands were steady, but there was a cold glint in his smile. Emily laughed, but I could see the tension behind her eyes. She knew something was off, even if she didn't want to admit it. After they went to bed, I locked myself in my study and called my lawyer, Michael Abrams, a good man who'd handled my wife's will and knew every detail about my estate. Michael, it's Walter. I need your help. It's urgent. He listened as I told him everything: Nathan's sudden push for the house, the appraiser visit, the suspicious web searches. Walter, do not sign a single thing, Michael said firmly. Don't give Nathan access to any documents. I'll be in Austin by tomorrow afternoon. Bring every deed, insurance policy, bank statement, everything. We'll set up fraud alerts and review your legal protections. I hung up, feeling both relieved and heartsick. Emily had always been my pride, my reason for getting up every morning. Now her husband was circling like a shark, and she was caught in the middle. Friday morning, I caught Emily alone in the kitchen. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes. Dad, are you angry at Nathan? He says you're making him feel unwelcome. I shook my head. Emily, this isn't about feelings. It's about protecting what matters. You know how much this house means to me, and to you, even if you don't remember all the reasons. She frowned, twisting her ring. Nathan just wants what's best for us. He's trying to help. I put a hand on her shoulder, gentler than I felt. Honey, sometimes help comes with a price. Don't let anyone pressure you, not even your husband. You always have a home here. No one's taking that away. She nodded, but I could see the confusion. Nathan was good, too good. He'd woven himself into her trust. By noon, Michael arrived, a stack of legal folders in hand. We spent hours in my study, scanning deeds, changing online banking passwords, and documenting everything suspicious. Michael showed me how to set up a red flag with the county clerk, so any sudden property transfer would automatically alert us. Walter, he's slick, but he's not smarter than you, Michael said, offering a tired smile. Just keep your head clear. Don't confront him until we have everything airtight. That evening, I found a small USB drive hidden behind the TV, a motion sensor camera, no doubt left by Nathan or his accomplice. My hands shook with a mixture of anger and dread as I plugged it into my laptop. File after file showed Nathan on the phone, describing the target's daily routines, showing my personal paperwork to someone off-screen. I copied everything, made backups, and texted Michael. We have physical evidence. Hidden cameras. Late that night, I poured myself another glass of whiskey, staring at the framed photo of Margaret. You always said trust but verify, Maggie, I whispered. Looks like I should have listened sooner. I knew, as I turned off the lights, that this battle had just begun, and I'd need every ounce of wisdom, stubbornness, and Texas grit to see it through. Sleep was a stranger those nights. Even as my old house creaked in the warm Texas wind, I lay awake, cataloging every threat, every memory. For the first time in my life, I locked my bedroom door before turning in, an act I never thought I'd need in my own home. Saturday dawned with rain beating the windows. Nathan was up early, whistling as he made coffee, already dressed in a suit. "Big day," he said, flashing that all-American smile. "Got a friend from Houston coming by to see about refinancing some properties. You mind if we use the dining room for a bit, Walt?" My jaw clenched. "Just keep out of my office," I replied, meeting his gaze. He just grinned and went back to his plans. Emily hovered nearby, watching us both, the way a child watches a brewing storm. Michael, my lawyer, called at 9 a.m. "Walter, did you check your property records online this morning?" My heart thudded. "No, not yet." "Check now. Something's up." I opened the county clerk's website and froze. A new notice of transfer was posted against my address, filed just yesterday, electronically signed. My name, Nathan's, and a third name, Richard Vance, Notary Public. I scanned the document, my hands trembling. The signature looked eerily like mine, but I hadn't touched a pen for any legal paper in months. I called Michael back, voice shaking with anger and fear. "This is forgery, Michael! He's moving faster than we thought. Save everything. I'm calling my contact at the district attorney's office. Walter, under no circumstances let Nathan know you're onto him yet. We want him confident, not desperate." Minutes later, the doorbell rang. Nathan's friend arrived, a short, fussy man in a slick gray suit, carrying a leather briefcase. They shook hands in the hallway, speaking in low voices. I stepped out, casual as can be, and greeted him. "Morning. I'm Walter Harris, owner of this house. What brings you to my doorstep?" The man smiled, flashing a notary badge. "Just assisting Nathan with some routine paperwork. Nothing for you to worry about, sir." I held his gaze a little longer than was polite. "Glad to know my son-in-law values paperwork. I'll be in my office if you need anything." Back in my study, I could hear muffled voices and the scratching of pens. The old anger simmered, but I forced myself to think like the engineer I once was, systematic, methodical, patient. After they left, Emily peeked in, worry etched across her face. "Dad, Nathan said you're being difficult. Is everything all right?" I closed my laptop, taking a deep breath. "Emily, sometimes the people we love most are the ones who test us hardest. I just need you to trust me right now." She hesitated, then nodded, though I could see the confusion and pain in her eyes. That hurt more than anything Nathan could do. That evening, Michael arrived again, this time with a folder marked evidence. Urgent. "Walter, the DA's office is interested. They've seen a dozen scams like this in Dallas and Houston. They want to set up a sting operation, catch Nathan in the act of fraud." A strange sense of relief washed over me. For days, I'd been playing defense, bracing for the next blow. Now, finally, it was my turn to go on offense. "They'll want you to act natural, Walter," Michael explained. "Let Nathan think he's getting away with it. The DA's team will install surveillance, maybe even wire you for sound. The goal is to catch him red-handed, especially when he tries to force a transfer or produce more forged documents." We talked strategy late into the night. My house, my fortress, would become the stage for his downfall. I'd need to pretend to be oblivious, even welcoming. It made my skin crawl, but the DA assured us this was the best way to guarantee a conviction. After Michael left, I sat in the kitchen with a mug of black coffee, watching the moonlight spill over the backyard. I remembered Margaret's laughter echoing off the stone patio, Emily's shrieks of joy as she played with her childhood dog, Baxter. Every brick, every bush in the garden, held memories I wasn't willing to surrender to a thief. I pulled out my old journal. April 6, 2024. Nathan Carter has forged my signature. Evidence mounting. The DA is involved. The game changes tomorrow. I will not let him win. Upstairs, I could hear Nathan's laughter, loud and careless. He thought he'd already won. Little did he know, the walls of this old house were about to close in around him. Sunday morning dawned clear and golden, a Texas spring day that begged for peace, not war. But as I sipped my coffee and looked out at the live oaks, I felt the weight of what was coming. Nathan didn't know it yet, but every move he made was about to be watched, recorded, and used against him. By mid-morning, Michael arrived with 2 women and a man, plain clothes, with the cool, focused eyes of professionals. "This is the team," he said quietly. "We're here to install surveillance and prep you for tomorrow. Just stay calm, Walter. We're going to end this." For the next 3 hours, my house became a silent hive of activity. Cameras the size of nickels disappeared into bookshelves and vents. Audio mics tucked under side tables, behind picture frames, in the kitchen and dining room, anywhere Nathan might talk business. The team leader, Agent Parker, went over everything with me twice. "We want him confident, Mr. Harris. You play the good host, maybe even let him see you sorting old papers, anything to make him think you're getting your affairs in order. He'll try to push you, maybe even present new documents. Don't resist, don't agree. Just ask questions by time. And if he brings up the house or tries to force your hand, keep him talking. We'll do the rest." I nodded, feeling the steel slide back into my spine. "Don't worry, Agent. I've survived bigger storms than this." Nathan was gone all day. "Out with a client," he told Emily. She spent most of the afternoon cleaning and rearranging furniture, trying to chase away the anxiety that seemed to have settled in every corner of the house. When she paused, I hugged her, something I hadn't done since her wedding day. "Dad, what's going on? Nathan says you're acting strange. Are you mad at him?" I hesitated, searching her face for the little girl I'd raised. "Emily, you know I'd do anything for you. But sometimes we have to face hard truths about people. I want you to promise me something. Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything about this house unless I'm right there with you. All right?" She frowned, worry deepening. "Okay, Dad. But Nathan's not." I squeezed her hand. "Just promise." She nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "I promise." That night I barely slept. Instead, I sat in the living room, staring at Margaret's picture, feeling the old ache for her wisdom. "You always could see through people," I whispered. "I hope I'm doing right by our girl." At dawn, the agents returned. Microphones were checked, camera angles confirmed. I was wired with a discreet earpiece. If things got dangerous, all I had to do was tap my pocket twice and backup would come crashing through the door. By noon, Nathan breezed in, full of false cheer. "Morning, Walt! Hope you're hungry. Thought I'd make lunch for everyone." He cooked, he chatted, he acted every bit the doting son-in-law. But I caught the looks he gave the hallway, sizing up doors, checking if Emily was around, lingering by the office. After lunch, as Emily went out to pick up groceries, Nathan made his move. He set a thick folder on the table between us, all glossy signatures and notary seals. "Walter, let's talk about the future. I know you're tired of maintaining this big old house. I've lined up a buyer, great family, willing to pay over market. You'd have enough for a great retirement place in the hill country. And Emily and I could start our family here, carry on your legacy." He slid a pen across the table, confident as a poker player with a royal flush. I picked up the paperwork, pretending to squint at the legal jargon. "Looks complicated, Nathan. Mind explaining a few things?" He smiled, launching into a well-rehearsed pitch. How it was best for everyone, how it would make Emily happy, how I could enjoy life without all this stress. I let him talk, making mental notes as Agent Parker's voice whispered reminders in my ear. "By time. Don't refuse. Keep him talking. When I asked why my name appeared next to his and a notary, he grew impatient. It's just a technicality, Walt. You're still in control, on paper. Trust me. Trust. The word tasted like ashes. I feigned confusion, asking for more details, pressing him to explain every clause. He grew flustered, finally snapping. Look, you either sign now or I'll have to get legal involved. This is the best deal you'll get. I shrugged. Nathan, let's finish this up tomorrow. My lawyer wants to review it first. You know how us old-timers are, slow and steady. He forced a smile, but his hands trembled as he packed up the folder. After he left, I slumped in my chair, the relief of surviving the first real confrontation washing over me. Agent Parker gave me a quiet thumbs up. Perfect performance, Mr. Harris. We have hours of tape, and he's growing desperate. Tomorrow, we set the final bait. I nodded, heart pounding. The trap was set. Soon Nathan would have no more lies to tell, and I'd get my home, my family, and my peace of mind back. The next morning was thick with tension. Even the air felt charged. I wandered through the house, touching the walls, the banister, the old kitchen table scarred with decades of use. This place wasn't just lumber and nails, it was every birthday, every Christmas, every memory of Margaret and Emily growing up. I had to protect it, no matter the cost. Agent Parker and her team were back before sunrise. Today's the day, Mr. Harris, she whispered, checking my earpiece and the panic button in my jacket. He's feeling cornered. Let him think he's in control. Don't show your hand until we say. I nodded, gripping a mug of coffee so tightly my knuckles ached. The plan was set. I'd agreed to meet Nathan and his notary, Richard Vance, at noon for a final signing. Everything would be recorded, video, audio, the whole show. Uniformed officers waited in unmarked cars down the street, ready to move at a moment's notice. Emily left early, still worried but believing Nathan's lie that we were finalizing retirement plans for my future. She kissed me on the cheek and whispered, "Please be kind, Dad. Nathan just wants what's best." I hugged her tight, swallowing the urge to tell her everything. Soon she would know the truth. At exactly noon, Nathan's black Lexus pulled into the driveway. He stepped out with a forced smile, followed by Richard, who wore an ill-fitting suit and carried a shiny briefcase. The two men entered the house, pretending at confidence but glancing nervously at every shadow. We gathered at the dining table. Nathan laid out the forged documents, each one already stamped and signed in my name. "This is it, Walter," he said, voice strained. "We sign, we celebrate. You get your money, your freedom. Emily and I start our new life." I picked up the top page, feigning interest. "Nathan, I just want to make sure everything's proper. Would you mind if we stopped by the police station first, just to make sure these signatures are all legit? I've heard stories about scams lately, and an old man can't be too careful." The blood drained from Nathan's face. "What? Why would you do that?" "There's no need for." I cut him off, my voice cold and calm. "Because I know exactly what you're doing, Nathan. You think you can steal my house, forge my name, and get away with it? You picked the wrong old man." Richard went pale, his hands shaking as he tried to gather the papers. "This isn't what you think." Just then, Agent Parker's voice crackled in my ear. "Now, Walter." I pressed the panic button twice. Within seconds, the front door burst open. Officers stormed the room, weapons drawn but calm. "Hands where we can see them! Nobody move!" Nathan tried to run, but an officer tackled him before he reached the door. Richard surrendered instantly, dropping his briefcase to the floor. In the chaos, I sat perfectly still, a strange calm settling over me. Decades of discipline and stubbornness, finally put to good use. "Mr. Harris, are you all right?" Agent Parker asked, helping me to my feet. I nodded, glancing at Nathan, now handcuffed and seething with rage and fear. "I'm just glad my wife isn't here to see this," I murmured. "But she'd be proud." Emily returned home an hour later to flashing lights and police cars. The look on her face, shock, betrayal, heartbreak, nearly undid me. She ran to me, sobbing. "Dad, what happened? What did Nathan do?" I held her close as she cried in my arms. "He tried to steal everything, Emily. But we stopped him. You're safe. The house is safe. We're going to get through this, together." As the police read Nathan his rights, he glared at me with a mixture of hatred and defeat. "You ruined everything, old man," he spat. I met his eyes, steady and unafraid. "No, Nathan. I saved my family from a snake. You only ruined yourself." That night, the house was quiet. The storm finally passed. Emily sat beside me on the porch, head on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I should have listened." I squeezed her hand, feeling hope for the first time in weeks. "No, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. The world is full of people like Nathan. But you and me, we're survivors." As the moon rose over the Texas hills, I realized that sometimes, even when you feel alone, the right people will help you fight back. And sometimes, being a stubborn old man is exactly what saves the day. 4 days after Nathan's arrest, our home felt like the epicenter of a storm. News spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Neighbors dropped off casseroles, friends called to check on Emily, and the local paper left messages asking for interviews about the scam at the Harris place. Emily stayed in her childhood bedroom, barely coming out. Her trust was shattered. Sometimes I'd find her sitting by Margaret's old vanity, just staring at herself in the mirror, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Dad, how could I not see what he was?" she whispered one evening, her voice so small I almost missed it. I sat beside her, careful not to crowd her. "Because you loved him. Because you wanted to believe the best, just like your mother did with everyone. There's no shame in trusting people, Emily. The shame belongs to those who abuse it." She nodded, but the pain in her eyes lingered. "Will people think I'm stupid?" "Absolutely not. The people who matter know the truth. You're strong and you're honest. That's rare these days." I tried to give her a reassuring smile. "You got that from your mom." The legal process moved faster than I expected, thanks to the mountain of evidence gathered by Agent Parker and her team. Michael, my lawyer, kept me updated almost daily. Nathan was charged with fraud, forgery, and attempted theft. His so-called notary, Richard Vance, took a plea deal, giving up every detail of Nathan's schemes in exchange for leniency. One afternoon, Agent Parker stopped by with paperwork and updates. She smiled, tired but satisfied. "Walter, you did more than just save your home. You helped us build a case against a man who'd targeted families all over Texas. There are folks in Dallas, Waco, and even as far as Oklahoma who are sleeping easier tonight because of you." I felt a swell of pride and relief. "I was just trying to protect my family." "That's exactly what you did," she said. "But you also protected a lot of other families." A week later, the sheriff himself delivered an official letter confirming the fraudulent transfer was void and my house title fully secure. I stood on the porch, holding the document, feeling decades of stress lift off my shoulders. The old live oak in the front yard seemed to stand taller that day. Emily emerged and joined me on the steps. She looked better, stronger, clearer-eyed. "You kept us safe, Dad. I'm sorry for all the arguments, for not listening sooner." I shook my head, pulling her in for a hug. "You never have to apologize for loving someone. That's what makes you my daughter." Life slowly settled back into something like normal. The house, once tainted by suspicion and fear, grew warm again. I started making pancakes on Sunday mornings like I used to, letting the smell of bacon drift through the rooms and remind us both of happier times. Emily began teaching again, pouring her energy into her students, determined not to let bitterness harden her heart. Neighbors came by more often. Bill Watson, the neighbor who'd first warned me, brought over coffee and sat on the porch with me most mornings. "You know, Walt," he said, "you should talk to the church men's group. A lot of folks your age could use some of that stubborn wisdom." I laughed. "I'm not sure anyone wants to hear an old man rant about property deeds and crooks in suits." But Bill shook his head. "You'd be surprised. Folks trust you. They've seen what you did." A few days later, Emily and I attended Sunday service together. The pastor surprised me by asking me to stand and share what happened, not just the scam, but the lessons learned. I hesitated, but Emily squeezed my hand and nodded. I stood before a room full of faces, friends, neighbors, even strangers. My voice shook at first, but grew stronger as I spoke. "I'm not a hero," I said. "I'm just a father, a neighbor, someone who believes in holding on to what's right. The truth is, we all need to look out for each other, to ask questions, and to listen to that little voice that says something's not right. That's how we protect our families, our homes, and our hearts." The congregation rose to their feet, and I caught Emily's proud smile in the crowd. For the first time since Margaret passed, I felt something close to peace. As spring turned to summer, the house felt safe again, laughter returning, flowers blooming in Margaret's old garden beds, hope planted deep in the soil. But the scars remained, quiet reminders of how quickly life can turn, and how much stronger you become when you fight for the ones you love. The day of Nathan's trial came at last, a bright summer morning that felt more like a new beginning than an ending. Emily and I drove to the Travis County Courthouse together. She held my hand the whole way, her grip steady and strong. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with quiet tension. Nathan sat at the defendant's table, his expensive suit traded for a county-issued jumpsuit, all arrogance drained away. He wouldn't look at me or Emily. Richard Vance, his old accomplice, sat nearby with his lawyer, ready to testify for the prosecution. I took the stand, nerves dancing in my stomach. The prosecutor asked me to tell my story, from the first strange questions Nathan asked about my house to the moment police swarmed my living room. I told the truth, clear and simple. I spoke about trust, about family, about the pain of betrayal, and about the power of fighting back, no matter your age. The defense tried to spin the story as a misunderstanding, claiming Nathan only wanted to help. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury heard the recordings from the hidden cameras. They saw the forged documents, the notary's confession, and listened to Agent Parker explain the web of fraud Nathan had spun across Texas and beyond. Emily testified too. She spoke bravely, admitting how easily love can cloud judgment. "But my father never stopped believing in me, and he never stopped protecting me," she said, her voice breaking. "That's what real family means." When the verdict came in, guilty on all counts, there was a ripple of relief through the room. Nathan hung his head, his years of scheming brought to a sudden and certain end. The judge sentenced him to 15 years without parole and ordered full restitution for every victim he'd conned. Richard Vance got a lighter sentence, his cooperation helping put away his former partner. Afterward, Emily and I walked out into the sunlight, shoulders lighter than they'd been in months. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters, but I waved them away. This wasn't about publicity or revenge, it was about reclaiming our lives. We drove home in silence, but it was a comfortable silence, the kind that comes when wounds have begun to heal. At the house, I put on a pot of coffee, and we sat at the old kitchen table where so much of our family history had played out. "Dad," Emily said, stirring sugar into her cup, "I'm sorry you had to go through all this. I wish I'd listened sooner." I reached across and took her hand. "No regrets, Em. Love blinds us all sometimes. What matters is that you learned, you survived, and you found your strength. That's what your mother would have wanted." She smiled. the old light coming back into her eyes. Do you think you'll ever sell this place? I looked around, the sunlit walls, the shelves full of Margaret's books, the scuffed wood floors worn by 1,000 memories. Someday, maybe. But not yet. This house is proof that we can weather any storm. It's more than just property. It's home. Emily nodded, wiping away a tear. Then let's make some new memories. That summer, we did just that. We hosted backyard barbecues, planted new flowers in Margaret's garden, and invited neighbors for evenings on the porch. Emily found her laughter again, and I felt my own spirit grow lighter each day. In late August, the church asked me to give one more talk about elder fraud prevention. I stood before a packed fellowship hall and shared my story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. My name is Walter Harris, I said. I'm a father, a grandfather, and a man who almost lost everything to a clever thief. But I didn't give up, and I didn't do it alone. My family, my friends, and a few good people in law enforcement helped me stand tall. If you ever find yourself doubting your own strength, remember, you're never too old to fight for what's right. The crowd stood and applauded, but the real reward came afterward, when Emily hugged me and whispered, "I'm proud of you, Dad." That night, sitting under the Texas stars, I thought of Margaret and all the years we'd built together. Life had thrown us storms, but love, and a bit of stubborn wisdom, had seen us through. My house was safe, my daughter was healing, and the legacy I left would not be one of loss, but of courage, love, and hope. No matter what came next, I knew I'd face it with the same resolve that carried me through this battle. And as long as I had family by my side, I'd never be alone.